It's Monday, August 21st, 2023. I want to start today's video out, and I want to thank everybody out there who sent their prayers and their thoughts and their concerns that we were all safe here. And I want to reassure everybody that everything is fine. The sun is out. It's about 90 degrees out. We'll be back in triple digits by Wednesday. Things are drying out already. But it was an interesting 24 hours without a doubt. But again, I want to thank each and every one of you for the prayers and the concern for reaching out to me. And again, everything here is good. We are fine. But just to give you an update of where we're at today, there definitely was some damage done here in my area, the Coachella Valley. We've got millions of dollars of damage. People's cars were washed away in some cases. We had mudslides. We have debris all over the roads, power lines down, school closures. Some businesses are closed. We had a neighbor, lives about 5 houses down, who came by this morning, and he had him and his wife drove to get something to eat this morning, and they were coming out of a drive-through in his Mercedes SUV. I believe it was a GLE 350, nice vehicle, and a large tree came down and struck his vehicle. He thought he got T-boned. He said that the impact was so hard, and showed me a picture of it. The tree was massive, and it just caved the back end of this SUV, and thousands of dollars of damage. Luckily, they're okay. But that happened this morning with the sun out. Skies are blue, and there are still threats out there on the roadways. Trees, as I've said, have fallen over, and the ground is still very, very wet. So you have to be careful that additional trees don't come down, or power lines, because things are just so wet right now. So very interesting time. The I-10, Interstate 10 here, this morning was just bumper to bumper in both directions because so much mud was on the freeway. They were closing lanes down to clean it out. But again, millions of dollars in damage to properties, homes, businesses, roadways. It was something else. It really was. Could have been much worse, and luckily it wasn't. These bugs are out buzzing. If you hear anything, it's very, very loud. But very interesting 24-30 hours, that is for sure. We got a lot of rain last night, but the ground is absorbing it. Golf course, we had literally a lake back here. It's receding now, which is good. But it's amazing how fast something can happen. The city of Desert Hot Springs, you could not get in or out of the city. And so I know that there's probably people out there that thought this was no big deal. It was just, just a little rain. It was much more than that. It's cost Riverside County millions upon millions, probably into the hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. And luckily, I don't believe anybody has been severely hurt out here. I don't think we've lost any life. But this could have been much, much worse. But thanks again for all the thoughts, all the prayers, and all your concern. I really appreciate it, and I want to let all of you know that. Now, just to elaborate for another couple minutes here on the power of this storm, how powerful it was. This came from the New York Post. Californians climb to trees, ditch cars to avoid flooding. Now, there was a video yesterday of the 5 freeway in Castaic, and cars were hydroplaning down the 5 freeway, and they were hydroplaning and slamming into dividers, or they were slamming into cars that were already in accidents on the side of the 5 freeway. And this was really unbelievable. So you can just imagine the damage that has been done to automobiles out here in California. But watching this video of cars hydroplaning, and just yesterday when I was out before the storm really hit, people were already hydroplaning, so we knew that there were going to be a lot of accidents. Now, I was reading an article, Panic Buying, Empty Store Shelves in California as Hurricane Approaches. And I want to elaborate a little bit more on this. I talked about a lot of this yesterday about the importance of preparation. You do not want to be one of these people that waits to the last minute. Use this storm as a reminder, as a life lesson of how fast things can happen. And many stores were wiped out of water. food and all the panic buying that was taking place. You don't want to land up having to go to the store before a storm. You don't want to wait in line. You don't want to have to be dependent on a store at the last minute for food and water, because what if you cannot get these items? You're in big, big trouble. So, take this as a lesson right here in Southern California. Maybe you live in Indiana or Iowa or New York or Massachusetts or wherever, somewhere in the world. Take this as a lesson. If it can happen here where I live, it can happen where you live. Again, man-made disasters, natural disasters, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it is a disaster. And you have got to be preparing now for disasters. And the biggest one I think we all have to be preparing for is an economic disaster. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. And let's talk about what's happening in this deteriorating economy. As I make this video, markets across the board are up. They were down earlier this morning. We have to start really paying attention to that 10-year bond yield. As I make this video, I think we're sitting at about 4.34%. And that is going to spell big trouble for these debt markets and anyone looking to buy a property. Now, shifting gears here a little bit, let's talk about what's happening to the deteriorating U.S. economy and the real disaster we should all be preparing for immediately. Fox Business, U.S. economist warns Americans to hunker down and save your pennies as economy overheats. Piper Sandler, chief economist, Nancy Lazar, many Americans, she says, still feeling a cost of living crunch that's burning holes in their pockets. U.S. consumers will soon have to hunker down, she says. Lazar described the state of the U.S. economy as overheating. She says we're witnessing declining manufacturing, consumers pulling back, tighter labor market, and too much government spending. You cannot argue with any of these points. She says be conservative, careful with your credit cards. It's time to hunker down. Don't get further into debt, she says. I think that's all right on the money. I think that's all great advice right there. And as we get further into this year, as we get into the fourth quarter, I believe we're going to begin to really see the deterioration here. We know that most people now, the majority of this country is already tapped out. JP Morgan came out, said that. We've been talking about it for a very, very long time. People are now really tapped out, and people are going to go deeper into debt as this year continues. Mortgage rates hit their highest point since the year 2000. Bankrate.com this morning, 7.55% on a 30-year fixed rate. The mortgage industry is toast. The housing market is toast. We've got some real bad stuff going on here where people are losing jobs, inflation's not going away, mortgage rates continue to go up, people don't have enough money to put down on a house, people are living paycheck to paycheck, people now are paying their essentials with credit cards. How in the world does anybody believe that the housing market is going to continue at all-time highs, that we're going to see prices at all-time highs when we're seeing all-time sale crashes? We are seeing a real estate crash take place right now. Sales are crashing and prices are next. And at some point, you're going to see so many people running to the exits, putting property on the markets, whether it's investors or these institutions, the Airbnbers, or it's just people that have to sell to downsize, or they're selling to move somewhere else, or to transfer from one job to another, or they're just forced to sell or raise capital. There are so many moving pieces here, ladies and gentlemen, that are going to be a part of this housing crash, and the wheels are in motion right now. And one of the biggest concerns is the job market. It's incomes that cannot afford these properties. When you're looking at, on average, 40% of people's income going to a mortgage, and many places in this country, 50-60% going to a mortgage payment, that is 100% unsustainable. So things are breaking. They're going to continue to break. Here's one on the hedge today. Peter Schiff, the Fed is in a no-win situation. He says most people now seem to think that the Federal Reserve can beat price inflation and guide the economy to a soft landing. Comment down below. Do you think we're going to get a soft landing? I do not believe it. In fact, I think right now things are getting very, very bumpy for most Americans. Peter goes on to say that the Fed is actually in a no-win situation, and if the Fed cannot win, gold cannot lose. Peter says, get ready to see more inflation. He says the Fed cannot cut now. In fact, the Fed must raise. How many of you believe that the Fed is going to cut rates next year? I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, right now, I think we have at least one more rate hike this year, and I think that we could see more rate hikes next year. Best case scenario for next year is the Fed just keeps it higher for longer, does not cut rates, does not raise rates. But I think that as we're going to see fuel prices, gas prices rise, food prices continue to rise, I do believe that the Fed is going to be forced to raise rates even more into 2024. The hedge, central banks won't save us this time. Authored by Charles Hugh Smith. You can go through this article, it's a good one, but just a couple quick points here. The cost and consequences of central bank distortions have finally come home to roost. The vultures are circling the asset bubbles, awaiting their opportunity to pick over the carcasses of all those who reckoned, quote, central bank saves and asset bubbles are forever, unquote. They have quite a dilemma here now on their hands. They've caused quite a mess, and big sales are coming. Many times we were told buy the dip. I've said always buy the crash. I think that's a sucker's bet to buy the dip. The real players, the real money is going to come in and buy the crash, and there are going to be carcasses all over the place. It goes on to say, as for everyone else, you're on your own. Nobody is going to save us. Expand your self-reliance, ladies and gentlemen, and reduce your exposure to risk. We do not control these risks. We cannot control what's coming, but what we can do is control our exposure to the risks. So be careful, and be careful who's managing your money. You should be managing your money. Be careful who's holding your money. You should be holding your money. And be careful of risk. Be careful of the debt out there. Do you really need this item that you're buying today? Especially, do you need to be buying a house right now? Do you think this is a good time to buy a home? If you do not have to buy a home right now, my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, this would be the worst possible time to buy a home. I think that this is probably one of the best times that you'd be holding precious metals. This is not financial advice, but where else do you go right now? Do you really think it's safe to buy real estate? Do you think it's safe to buy commercial real estate or residential real estate? Do you think it's a safe bet to be buying land right now? My opinion, all this is overvalued. I think that what is on sale right now is especially gold and silver, especially gold. This is what I'm doing. You go to my link down below, SD Bullion. Check it out if you need to buy some gold or some silver. I think you need to be protecting yourself. I cannot guarantee or forecast where any of this is going. My personal opinion is I believe that it's not a matter of where gold and silver is going. It's a matter of preserving and protecting your wealth. It's a matter of having this stuff when everything else goes to zero or gets absolutely crushed. We're going to come to a point where I don't even think we're going to measure the value of gold and silver in dollars anymore. That's very, very possible. But looking at what the central banks are doing, looking at what Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, India, and so many other countries are doing, I think that we really have to pay attention here, and we have to be owning some of this stuff. One thing I can guarantee, one thing I can predict and forecast for all of you is gold and silver will never go to zero. New York Post, bloody mess, hit and run driver mows down 7 New York City pedestrians. Tragic story here. Again, this is where we're at in society. This is why it's so important to exercise situational awareness, but they have no idea. I believe this was a woman driver also, but they have no idea, apparently not on drugs, not on alcohol, why this individual did this. But 5 people are in critical condition, 2 in stable condition. You just never know what is going to happen. You have to be so careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. When you leave your house, when you walk out those doors, you better be paying attention. If not for you, for your kids. But 5 people in critical condition over this weekend, and no reason to why. Here's another one. Driver arrested after doing donuts at busy Atlanta intersection. Now, this was interesting. I watched this video. A driver in an F-150 truck doing donuts. They closed down the intersection. You know, again, this illegal street racing, the illegal drifting and all that. A Georgia state trooper arrives, and then the truck takes off and mows down multiple people. Bodies just flying in the air, running people over. They did catch this individual. This is just the absolute lawlessness that is taking place on the streets of America. And you have got to be so careful out there. There's so much. I mean, we've got natural disasters, man-made disasters, economic disasters, and then you've got people that are just a disaster, walking the streets of America, driving vehicles, mowing down people for whatever reason. And this individual in Atlanta, they just drove off, and they didn't care. They just didn't want to be caught, and they didn't care who was in front of them. They were just driving over these people as fast as they could. No care, no respect for life, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a world now where people have no respect for the law or law enforcement. They have no respect for you or your life. They have no respect for your job. They have no respect for where you shop. They have no respect for your neighborhood. They have no respect for human life. It's so sad how far we have fallen. We cannot control this, right? We cannot control what is happening in the economy. We cannot control what's happening socially, but what we can do is control our life, and we can take action and prepare the best that we can to be as self-reliant, the most self-reliant that we can humanly possibly be. We're living in a time now where it is so important now to be your own central bank, to be your own security task force, to be your own person, and not be reliant on the system, not to be reliant on other people. The system is breaking down right before our very eyes. We talk about this daily, and we're going to continue to talk about it because it's going to continue to break down daily, and I'm going to keep reporting on it. But you cannot rely on a system that is now melting down to be there to save you, just like you cannot rely on the central banks or the Federal Reserve to come and save you. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. They are going to break the system. They are breaking down the economic system right now. You're watching the breakdown of society take place right now. If you cannot see this happening, you are as blind as a bat if you cannot see what's happening. Take a good look at what is going on around you. Prepare accordingly, ladies and gentlemen, because you're not going to get any second chances. People, just like the storm, believe that they'll prepare the day before. They'll prepare 12 hours before the storm gets here. There will be no warning when you wake up one day and the markets have absolutely been crushed. Your pensions are wiped out, your retirements are wiped out, your stock investments, your money markets, everything's wiped out. There'll be no second chances. There'll be no second chances when somebody's kicking in your door because they want what you have. There will be no second chances. You must wake up and take action today. Take all of this, what you're watching take place in society, what you're watching take place just in the weather. We've seen so many man-made disasters also. I don't think we need to go into that. But you can question so many of these things that are happening and go, oh, okay, I'm just not going to do anything about it. Those are the people, if you have that mentality, those are the people that are going to lose it all. Do what you can right now. Prices are going up, and they're going to continue to go up on literally everything. Get what you need now. Start stocking up on it now. Put something away, every week. Take $20, $50, $100, $1,000 and go get more food. Get a water filtration system, and most of all, get security, because if you don't have security, again, these people that walk and around and tell you that all you need is some food and water and you're going to be okay. Take a look at what's happening at the stores, what's happening at the mall. South Coast Plaza, one of the wealthiest shopping malls on planet Earth, with the smash and grab. When these people can no longer go to the malls and go to the stores, especially when these people are hungry and they're thirsty. Why don't you think about this for a minute? When they're hungry and thirsty, they're not going to Gucci. The stores are all closed. Walmart shelves been depleted. When they're hungry and thirsty, I want you to think today, where do you think those people are going to go when they're hungry and thirsty? I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to let you think about, where do you think they're going to go when all the stores are closed? They're hungry, they're thirsty, and they're mad. Where do you think they're going to go? Think about that. Have a good day. Again, thank you so much for all of your concern, all the prayers, and for reaching out. I really do appreciate that. And I want to let all of you know that everything is good here. The sun's out, and things are going to get back to normal here right now. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't even want you to worry about me. I want you to worry about you. I want all of you preparing. I want all of you training. I want all of you getting in better shape. I want all of you getting in better financial and physical shape, spiritual shape especially. Be walking close to God. That's where it's at right there. It costs nothing. People go, well, I don't have any money. What do I do? What can I do? Well, the first thing you can do is get right with God, because that is absolutely free. And that's probably going to be your strongest asset of all the assets you could possibly have is being close to God, walking close to God, praying to God. He will protect you. He will open doors. He will protect you. That's what everybody needs to do, especially people that reach out and go, I have no money. What can I do? Get right with God. That's absolutely free, and that's going to be the most powerful, important asset you can have in your life. God bless. Have a wonderful day. The bugs are out, buzzing. The sun is out. Blue skies and clouds. It's over 90 degrees now. It's gonna start getting warm out here again in the desert. We're drying out. Probably within a few days, everything will be completely dry, and it will look like nothing even happened. I'm going to leave it there today. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. God bless.